Like a Lego, yeah. Your bumper is a magnet. I stick on like a magnet. A magnet.
Yeah, it's magnetic. Join Sarojini on Caribbean Connections, Thursdays at 1. Walk through the sands with poetry from our great leaders and academics. Jive with us to soca, reggae, chutney, and calypso. Get your current cricket results, meet special guests, and more. Every Thursday, 11:30 Eastern, 1 p.m. Newfoundland time.
Baby, a magnetic. That thing just sticking on, sticking on, sticking on, sticking on me.
Good day and welcome to this brand new episode of Caribbean Connections. Today we have 4 strong, awesome women, and we're going to be talking about Kamala Devi Harris, Vice President-elect of the US of A. So without further ado, I'm going to let these wonderful women introduce themselves, and we're going to carry on with the program. So I'll hand it over to them right now, and thank you for listening. Enjoy the show. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'll have each of you say a little bit about yourselves and what you do, anything you'd like to say. And I want to welcome Sanchita Chakraborty, Carmichael Polonio, and Renata Lang to this passionate and important little chat, as I like to call it. So starting with you, Sanchita, I can see you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So first of all, Mrs. Sarojini Lang, I would love to thank you for giving us this opportunities, and bringing us together here today to talk about very enjoyable topic. That is, I think, I'm sure we will learn more from you as the session goes. Yeah, something I think about, women, especially racialized women or women of colors, and how successfully we seeing this time's U.S. election. Anyhow, but a bit about me first of all. So my full name is, as you said, Sanchita Chakraborty, and that name comes from the eastern part of India, East India. And if I specify that, I was born in Bangladesh. I grew up in Calcutta, a big part of my life. And a huge part of my life, I've been growing up here in Newfoundland, Canada. And I work with the Association for New Canadians, with my wonderful colleague there who's sitting there right beside you, Renata Lang, and very proud to be her colleague. And what else? And love my mom and dad. I love my siblings who still lives in overseas, that part of the world, still there in there. They're also quite happy what's happening at the moment in the US election. And I love you guys too. Love you, Aunt Sarojini. Love your whole family.
Thank you, Sanchita. That was so wonderfully said. Thank you. Carmichael, that was our little new kitten making noise on our piano.
Well, you know what? This is 2020. We have seen just about everything in Zoom calls, from accidental fights to children having imaginary wars in the back, breastfeeding. What have we not seen in a Zoom call in 2020? So that a pet is absolutely no problem at all. Welcome to the listeners to our conversation. My name is Carmichael Polonio. I currently work at Nalcor Energy as a transmission design engineer. Just finishing off a year sabbatical, completing MBA in social enterprise and entrepreneurship at Memorial University, us being the very first cohort class. And in the middle of my accelerated program of an MBA, of course, not only did we have Snowmageddon, but we also have a global pandemic. So resiliency is the name of the game in 2020. definitely feeling like if we could survive this, my darlings, what can we not survive? And, as the year wraps up, very, very excited to see a woman who looks like me, a woman who has a story like me, and the second highest, seat office in our land, in our world, truthfully be told. So it's a good day.
Awesome. Well put. Fantastic. Thank you, Carmichael. And move over to Renata Lang.
Hello, my first name is Renata. I use she and her pronouns. So sorry, our cats were wrestling. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll need to separate them so they don't interrupt again, perhaps. Yes, so my name is Renata. I'll say it again. We can cut out that last part. So my name is Renata, she and her pronouns. I am an Ontarian, born in Toronto, grew up in Mississauga, but have been living in Newfoundland for a number of years. And soon it will be almost the same amount of time that I've been living here that I was living in my province of origin. I started studying business at Memorial and decided that wasn't for me, or the program decided that I wasn't for them, and ended up finding a passion in political science. I work with the Association for New Canadians now as well, and doing really cool stuff, educating people on all kinds of things about newcomers and diversity and anti-racism. And I learn a lot of my world perspectives from the people that I am surrounded by, both those I came across in my student union days in various places across Canada, but also my friends and my colleagues as well. I learn a lot from, constantly broadening and also deepening my worldview and my perspectives.
Thank you, Renata. And I am Sarojini Lang, your humble host of Caribbean Connections, broadcast usually from CHMR studios at Memorial University. However, due to COVID-19, the studios have been closed since March. So we're all doing our programs and shows from home. And this show, for our listeners, is a virtual show. So we're not in the studios. And I want to thank you, wonderful women and sisters, for coming here today. So let's move right into it. And Sanchita, we're going to start with you. The news about the US elections and Kamala Devi Harris. What do you think about her winning the second highest seat in the land?
Oh dear.
And also part Indian roots and Caribbean roots. So how do you feel, not only as a woman, but as an Indian woman? What should I say? What were your first feelings when you heard the news?
Okay, first of all, I have to make this sound for that seat, the seat that was won over by a woman for the first time in the U.S. election history. What is it? After 47, it took 47 men we had to go through for a woman to won that seat. So
45?
here's the big 40, 45. 45 times.
Yeah.
So 46 is the lucky charm.
Yeah.
So woohoo!
Woohoo!
That's the sound we have to make. First of all, of course, it's such a proud moment, a joyful moment, a very refreshing moment to even see that highest level seat is won by a female vice president. See, that's what we're talking about. And the other day, I think me and Renata was having a quick chat about, Renata mentioned that, she said, did you see that she, her middle name there, she also put Devi.
Yes.
And I'm so glad, Sarojini, you mentioned it, Aunt Sarojini, you mentioned it. Devi means, in Sanskrit, Devi means goddess.
Wow.
Deity. So that definitely showcases, for me at least, when I worship my Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, or Devi Parvati, or Devi Durga, it shows a very, very, it proves to me that, I think I'm looking for powerful words here, because it's so powerful feeling for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great feeling for me. Yes, it's 2020, and we are still talking about gender equality and, world views on women, and how privileged even we are right now here, 5 of us sitting here, um, uh, talking about, how we feel about this. I think I'm kind of like, I'm looking for words, and because I'm so overwhelmed with happiness, I'm so
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed with, I think I started believing again that,
Yes.
okay, it's not just a talk, it's not just a fiction, uh, but it can happen, because it's a
Mhm.
fact now.
Yes,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, I think that's the biggest feeling I'm having at the moment, that
Yeah.
not just being an Indian woman, not just being an African American, she is not just being a vice president, but a female vice president.
Exactly. And I think all of us share those sentiments, Sanchita. And I'll move over to Carmichael. Carmichael, how did you feel when you heard the news? After all, the background of Kamala is not only South Asian, but Caribbean as well. What were your feelings when you heard the news? And what did you think at that moment?
Eh, I think it's been 240 years in the American Republic, and all I could say is, at last. It's not even, oh, it has happened or whatever. It's beyond time for this glass ceiling to have been shattered. We have had female leaders of states in many, many different countries. And I think that it says a lot about the United States, the fact that in Barack Obama, we had our first person of color
Mm-hmm.
state leader, and that was only 12 years ago. And now we have a woman, who's in the seat, amended to the head of state in the world's most powerful nation. That truly,
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at countries and not say, do as I say and not as I do, because they might talk a good game about feminism and about rights and trying to go in other countries and giving them liberty. But you only have to look in their country and see how they treat people of color, their Black and brown people, immigrants, how they treat women, how they treat anybody who doesn't fit whatever manifest destiny that they have created for themselves. The good Lord says, show me how you treat the least of my brothers, and that
Yeah.
is what you do unto me. And the
Yes.
US is a very powerful country. It's also a very hypocritical country. And for one, I'm glad that I'm not an American. But I can tell you, as a person who's not an American, her win was still very significant to me.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
still had bated breath all week. My mother was the first person who texted me, and she was even more excited than I was. I remember 12 years ago when when Barack Obama won, and my father was exhilarant, and I didn't understand his level of joy. And I'm a very expressive person. I have no problem telling people what I think. And I told him at the time that I don't understand his joy. And what he got from that, what he gave back to me, was that I'm so happy that I've raised you in such a way that this man's winning is not significant to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because all I see is the way that the world should be.
Yes.
So it's beyond time. I only hope that with this kind of representation at the forefront, there will be reflected in the policies that country puts out, which has repercussions and effects. Because what the U.S. exports most of all is culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we consume is American culture, American TV, American music. That's world music. So I'm hope that what they export to the rest of the world is a lot better than what they've been exporting thus far.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing. Thank you. And we'll move over to Renata. How did you feel, Renata, when you heard that Kamala Devi Harris is now Vice President-elect of the United States of America? What were your first feelings?
Relief. I believe it was relief because finally a fascist, authoritarian, demagogue leader and his administration was voted out of office. And that was a really big deal because I think it was also a bit of fear, even though Kamala and Biden were elected, there was still millions and millions of Americans that voted for their opponents. And as we know, the race was still incredibly close. So I think there was initial relief and happiness, but also reflecting on the work that still needs to continue to be done. But seeing her elected absolutely gave me hope in what is possible in the world's most influential nation due to the nature of our geopolitics. Do I agree that they should be the most influential is a different question than do they currently have the most influence. It wouldn't be, I think, my nature as probably a poli-sci nerd if I didn't have some criticism and want to continue to watch, as Carmichael said, what policies they will roll out. And actually, it was one of my peers that also taught me this other perspective that I had to mull with for some time to see how I felt about it. And it was very eye-opening to me. So if we reflect, let's say, on the emancipation and the empowerment of African Americans, of those who were descendants of slaves, I think we can look at Kamala's win as a win against what we call ethnocentrism. So merely judging and limiting somebody based on their physical characteristics, their color, or their culture. And so I think that was a big win. But it was a nuanced point for me to learn that, of course, as we know, her background, her parents were immigrants, which I think speaks to what is possible in the United States. But her Blackness was through her father's immigration. And so while on a representative level, I think it is very a big achievement, I think we also need to continue to push because Black Americans who came through the intergeneration of, who were the descendants of slaves, still have yet to achieve that same feat. So
I know exactly what you're saying, and this is the same caveat that I have with Barack Obama as well, that they are not truly African American because their ancestors were not the descendants of slaves, and they don't have 200 years of intergenerational trauma on their backs as well as these other things. Very luckily, these leaders were raised by their mothers primarily. And so even though they have our melanin and they do share a lot of history from the face, like when people see them, they're not going to make a difference between being African American and being Caribbean or being African itself. They see this, the way that Americans treat people, they see colorized skin and they get scared for the most part. So I just wanted to jump in on you with that because that's also a huge caveat I have, not to take it away from them, because at the end of the day, she was raised how she was raised, but she chose to go to a historically Black university in a historically Black city. And that's a choice that she did not have to make.
Yeah. Kamala is also of South Asian descent. And as you saw on the news, and I'm sure on Twitter and other social media platforms, these small villages we're celebrating. And I mean, you are an Indian woman. You've been here a very long time, but I know you identify strongly with that. What do you make of all of this happening in India right now? And what does it mean for the politics between America, India, and the world?
Oh, Aunt Sarojini, did you just call me Kamala that time? Oh my God.
I know I said, did I say cover, Sanchita?
Oh my
Sanchita.
God. That's
Sanchita wants to hear what she wants to hear. She's like, "Did you just call me Kamala?" Like, okay, okay, Auntie.
That's the most honorable mistake in my life somebody made. Okay.
I think, they always say it's never an accident, and you
Well,
are a legend in your own right here in our fair city of NL, of St. John's, that.
no, I'm just trying to be saying this that rather, Aunt Sarojini, you look more like uh, Kamala Harris,
Oh my, oh
the
my.
elect.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
You also can say more on that too, I'm sure, because part of your journey as immigrant child, or you also have certain history, I'm sure, there with your parents' journey to Caribbean
Hmm.
from India. I'm sure you can also speak to that. I want to I when I, although I know very little. I have to tell you this. I must tell you this first. I know very little about American politics. um, one basic thing I think we all know so far is, and that's where the comparison comes, is so India is the world's largest democracy,
Hmm.
and America is the world's longest democracy, which is the most ancient, the oldest democracy. And so one would think that, as I was listening to Carmichael and Renata, which is a very learnable moment there, um, as one would assume or imagine, a country like, America, US, United States of America, you would think that this shouldn't have taken this long in a democratic world, democratic nation, democratic society, for a female, for a woman to come this far.
Hmm.
Whereas her journey of with her academia, with her profession, with her experience, uh, lived experience, with all that, she I don't even know if there could be anybody else in her, like, comparison. What was, like, she was elected city attorney, went to Harvard University, became, then was elected for district attorney. So that far, and then coming to this level of, uh, uh, success, also in where my most comparison is in a democratic country. It's kind of mind-boggling and confusing as well
Hmm.
that it took this long for a woman to be elected or selected. Wasn't America ready for this, or this long? Anyway.
Sanchita, remember, they're racist and they're sexist, and their policies are against this. The entire electoral college system, for example. Remember,
Hmm.
last election,
Yep.
Hillary had 3 million more votes than Trump, but Trump won.
Yeah.
Correct.
By the
Correct.
Electoral College, but this time, not only did the Biden-Harris
Yep.
team won the popular vote, they won
Correct.
the Electoral College, and as we can clearly see, how their win is being sabotaged by the current administration. And for me, I feel and I agree with Biden, it's such an embarrassment to the world. I mean, I've been following the news all week on various American networks and the UK and Canada, and world leaders are congratulating the team. And yet, the current administration, top officials, Republican officials, can't come to grips with this. They're talking about the transition of a second term for the president. And you know what? The saddest thing is, my family and I escaped economic and political turmoil and corruption from my home country in Guyana when we fled to Canada. I mean, anybody during that time who could afford it with whatever they can put together left the country. And it was called that period for a good 2 decades, the brain drain of Guyana. And when I see what is going on, I was saying to my husband, oh my gosh, this is Guyana all over again. I cannot believe that decades after me leaving a country of such corruption, I can see it in America. And I say to myself, and I question, what is it they're not accepting? Are they not accepting the win of this team, the Biden-Harris team, and the entire administration? Or is it because you have an South Asian, African, American, and then you have Biden, who they know support the causes of all Americans? So what is it really? And I'll ask Renata, why do you think there is such objection and this current administration's sabotaging this win and claiming that they've won? Why do you think that is? Is it because it's a South Asian, African American, Caribbean woman in there? Is it because they want to carry on with their corruption and their misogyny and their homophobia and their xenophobia? Why can't they just accept the plain fact?
These are not new. We saw these in Trump's first campaign in 2016. We saw them throughout his presidency and his rule. And so it's not uncharacteristic for this leader and his people to act in a way that is very narcissistic and self-serving. And if it doesn't go their way, then there's a problem. It's probably implicit, but there's no doubt in my mind that people like Trump do not see others as equals. However, and perhaps if Kamala was the presidential elect, there would be even more undermining, and there would even be even more sabotage. And so I think in some ways she's being shielded from that. But yeah, I believe that it's what's scary is all the people that are supporting and that did elect him. And I think what's important for us also to remind ourselves is even when Trump and his administration were elected in 2016, there were riots in the streets. And I think there's a difference between rallying against a hateful leader and rallying against something that didn't go your way.
Sanchita, what do you think? What is all this objection about? The mathematics have shown they've won the popular vote. They've won the electoral college. Now we have to get down to business. And as we have seen, starting on Monday, Biden and the President-elect Biden and VP-elect Kamala Harris, they've gone ahead and they now have a new COVID-19 task force. So how do you feel about them just going ahead with their plan, regardless of what the current administration is doing?
Yeah, these are amazing questions you have. I just want to, of course, first thing is they have President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Ms. Harris. They have a huge task ahead because these are pandemic presidential seats we're talking about. And they're given this, of course, they're given the responsibility of a pandemic situation. Not only that, they're also given a huge, messy situation that is created by the current president. A messy, nasty situation with the COVID that is ongoing, and where the current administration, the current Oval Office that is held by the current president, without any plan, without any, a narcissistic ways of his promotion ongoing, that is giving people wrong facts and wrong ideas about this whole pandemic. So this is a huge task he actually kind of threw those mud at this current president-elect seats. So to me, I do see, yes, it is refreshing. Yes, it's very, very uplifting. Yes, there are so many layers of hidden racism, sexism, ethnocentric mindset we're still carrying on in this part of the world, as we see. Canada is not, we do want to pat ourselves in the back saying, we are in a better situation when it comes to racism or sexism. However, maybe not in a very harsh way, but there are still subtle racism still exists. And it's pretty much, one thing the Trump administration did is brought out that those hidden racism, which I thought all these years that we are done talking about racism. We are all anti-racist now. We are all kind of like over the surface of that water, we can breathe. But this election showed again and again that how much more work is ahead, not just for the general public, not just for this president-elect, also for many, many generations to come,
Yes, exactly. And to add to your point, Carmichael, in her speech Saturday evening, after they've found out they won the Electoral College, 279, in her speech, Kamala said, I may be the first woman in this position, but I will not be the last. Now, the book that I'm reading right now, one of the New York Times bestseller, my husband Tony Lang bought it a few months ago. In that book, Kamala actually said her mom told her, sadly, who passed away in 2009. She did her PhD at University of California, Berkeley in breast cancer research. And she told Kamala, when Kamala had done so many already wonderful things in her life, when she knew she was dying, she said, Kamala, you'll be the first to do a lot of things, but definitely not the last. And those words, Kamala actually used it in her speech, and she paid a lot of tribute to her mom and credited her mom for where she is today. So Carmichael, I'm sure, have heard her speech, and I'm sure you had feelings that were being evoked when you heard it. What did you think of what she said, not only to the American people, but hitting little girls everywhere and women everywhere? What did you think about that speech?
First of all, her symbolism of coming out in that white suit, which is a sign for all suffrages. 100 years ago this year, some American women were granted the right to vote. So that was beautiful to see that nod to all women everywhere. I think she knows that she's a symbol, but besides being a symbol, I also think she's a hard worker, and she just has grit and wants to sink her teeth into it. She also acknowledged in her speech that it wouldn't be easy. She's like, the task we have ahead of us is not going to be easy. Not to get more into American politics, but it seems that the Dems have their House of Representatives, but the Republicans might have the Senate. So there's only so much they're going to be able to pass so far and so fast. But at the same time, their administration has already promised to use executive powers to roll back all of Trump's environmental stuff that he left. Join back the Paris Accord, join back WHO. I only hope that they don't waste so much of their time having to reverse all the things that he did, and we could just put the nightmare of the past 4 years behind us and never talk about it again.
Yes, I think,
Um,
sorry, go on.
no. She knows what I like about her the most is the fact that she's a child of immigrants. And I think that as being an immigrant myself, we're all immigrants or immigrant adjacent. Reach out and touch the closest immigrant. You're going to not be touching that part.
Love it.
None of us, nobody left home because it was easy.
No.
Nobody left home because we wanted to. We were somewhere in our lives, somewhere in our countries, somewhere in our hierarchy at a certain level. And you come somewhere else and you begin completely from scratch again. You are nothing and nobody. But the things that immigrants do, the many, many, many immigrants I've seen, they do for their children. They make every sacrifice for their children. After Kamala's parents divorced, her grandparents moved in and left India to help her mother take care of her 2 children because she couldn't do it by herself. That's a sacrifice her grandparents made for the rest of their lives. They left that village. They did not go back. The things we do for our children. And she said, I stand on the shoulders of giants.
Mm-hmm.
She has that humility that a leader needs. Something I want to talk about, going back to COVID response, touching super quickly on what Sanchita said, countries that have had females heads of states as leaders have had better outcomes with COVID. Yeah. And I want to also acknowledge the fact that in the US, they have not only over 10 million cases actively right now, their death amount is the population of my country of birth.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Unbelievable.
And so I hope what we see returns to the US is compassion. I think there's many ways that maybe us as Canadians are parallel is after a couple of years of Harper, when we had that Trudeau prime ministry beginning in the first, one of the things that Trudeau said was that I'm going to get Canadians, like that Canadian reputation back of us being like, oh, we're so nice. Here, have some maple syrup. Oh, love Canada. Oh. And sometimes you want that. You miss that.
Yes, yeah, I know, Carmichael. Yes, Canada certainly has a really great reputation worldwide, no doubt about that.
Can I add one thing quickly on Sarojini, just for that part? Carmichael, every year I go to US because my brother lives there in Boston. And every time we go for shopping, and I'm not generalizing, but I'm just telling you, you make it out what it is from. For some reason, every store, sometime in the mall we go, and you know how talkative we are, how polite we are, and extreme politeness or, pathological shyness or polite, whatever you call it, Canadians as us. Every store I would go, at least once or twice I would be asked, are you guys from Canada? And I would be like, what? How do you know? I don't even look like the general Canadian or whatever we say, because I'm brown, so I'm like, can I ask you, once I had to, I'm like, can I ask you guys, like, what made you say that, like, if I'm from Canada? They're like, because you guys are so nice.
Aww. Well, anyway. To add to that, Tony, while doing his PhD at the U of T many years ago, he did some research abroad in the US as well as Europe. And in Europe, on his days off, he would go around with his family from his grandfather's side and tour around, check out like Austria, Germany, and so on. And he would run into folks with Canadian flags on their backpacks, young kids, traveling around Europe on the train or hiking. And he would get into talking and would find out they're not Canadians, they were Americans, but they had the Canadian flag on their backpack because they knew the weight it carried while they were young and going around. People wouldn't see them as thugs are up to no good. And they admitted, they said, oh yeah, we want to do this because we're treated so differently, you know? So to add to what you guys are saying, it's very true. So Renata, to divert from what I just said, as a political science major, and I know you've been following the elections very closely, what do you think this new administration means for Canada and for women and little girls around the world?
A bit easier to collaborate and partner, I think, this new administration, due to their values, but especially their demeanor as leaders and as people. I am also hopeful that, so despite how advanced and progressive and much we value and celebrate human rights in Canada, all of us are aware that we only very briefly had a woman prime minister. That was, and I always like to point this out because I'm hopeful for the day that I see my fellow Canadians elect a female prime minister. This particular woman came in with the resignation of her colleague. And so to Democrats, for the people to decide that tells me more of where we've gone as a society. But I'm also skeptical in the sense that I'm worried because Canada, this is getting very deep now, but Canada, as we know, is an ally, especially when it comes to foreign affairs and military. And even though Democratic candidates in the US are typically supporting a more progressive values or promoting more progressive values domestically, my peers had to enlighten me and teach me that it was also many Democratic presidents and leadership that also waged war in the Middle East. And so that is the tricky part, Democratic establishment, that is where they lie, geopolitically. And so I am hopeful that some of my family, some of my friends and close friends will not suffer in that way. But I also recognize that even though Barack Obama and other great leaders who we value as people because of their qualities and their humility, I also recognize that as much as I want to be critical of that, when you've had to overcome so many barriers to entry to that position of power, you aren't always able to radically change the game such that you don't become, that your own staff and that other people in the establishment aren't working to kick you out, right? So I recognize that many leaders often have to continue with certain practices in the status quo of their governments, but I am hopeful that this new administration will not only revive progressive values domestically, which will influence others to be kind and compassionate and not hate based on differences, but also that we're in a new era where the average citizen has a larger voice, and citizens as a whole can be so vocal on media and social media, and we're very quick to hold leaders accountable. And so I'm hopeful that with that element in our society, that the new leaders, Biden and Harris, will also be very conscientious of how they govern in all aspects of their jobs.
Sanchita, as a South Asian woman who's been living in Canada for a long time, what do you think this means for South Asians in Newfoundland and Labrador? I mean, I could say in Canada, but where we have a smaller population and we see international students, new immigrants, people who've been here a long time from different countries, refugees, we've seen the progress. And in your position with the Association for New Canadians, you've seen the success of so many individuals over the last number of years. What do you think this means, seeing Kamala in that position? What do you think it means for South Asian women here in Newfoundland and Labrador and women coming from other countries to live here?
You know, just to add, when Renata mentioned about the voice, giving voice, I really love one of my all-time favorite statement is called collective voices, and it's so powerful. And especially every time now I hear collective voice, or even a voice, giving a voice, or sharing a voice, or getting the chance to have a voice, it reminds me of Kamala Harris's one statement, that is, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Pence, I'm speaking.
Yes.
That
Yes.
itself is so powerful, even to
Mhm.
stand up and say and telling with that, mature, professional, very articulated, thoughtful way to say it. That not to be, I'm speaking, hear me out, not to fight, but I'm speaking to discuss, hear me out.
Mhm.
Hence, a discourse. A discussion is a discourse. I believe in that. As a South Asian woman and as an international student as well, once when I left home, when I say home, I mean Bangladesh and India. Um, it was a little bit in the beginning to understand US politics history. It was a bit confusing to me because the origin that I come from, always seeing, you guys know this, even if I just, with all defense to India's democracy, surviving the damage of colonization, yet to have the world's first prime minister, a female prime minister, Miss Indira Gandhi,
Yes.
seeing that, learning that from our parents, as well as the country I was born, Bangladesh. Currently, we still have, I must mention this, our prime minister is a woman in a Muslim majority country.
Mhm.
So what was the reason? It's mind boggling for me that that's why I keep going back with this, that 2020, it took us 2020 and 45 vice president male in the state, that we could not have one
Mhm.
female vice president in the seat. Are you
Yes.
saying that women are not worth it? Are you saying women are not intelligent? Are you saying women are not educated?
Mhm.
Yes, what women were not given the opportunities. It took long time to, again, those breaking those glass ceilings. Anyway,
Yeah.
so as a South Asian and an international student here in this province, I think for us also it's our high time now to see similar changes to happen. Um, as Kamala Harris had created or shown that path, she also said that it's the first time, but should not be the last time.
Mhm.
Now, do I see that many international students or immigrants, in this case, as we are talking about the gender empowerment here, or enlightenment, do I see yet anything that would be as quick to see that we are following her footstep? I don't I don't know, but I would like to stay optimistic.
Mhm.
I think more and more, especially our generation and as well as the younger generation, should show interest in politics,
Mhm.
should not brush off the and should not avoid the discussion of politics, saying, oh, I don't have nothing to do with. And this is the mentality we need to change.
Mhm.
You want to see change, but you don't want to be a part of that change. No, you can't have that. We
Mhm.
all have to be progressive about not just thinking progressive, but also giving voices progressively. We have to stand together. We have to give voices together, not just to the privileged, but also to the oppressed as well, or people who did not get that chance.
Mhm.
We have to create that chance together. You are in it, I am in it, we are all in it. So for Newfoundland Labrador, it's our high time to to follow the footstep as Harris had created for all of us women. All we need is to showcase and learn and educate ourselves more and more, and give the voices.
Carmichael, you've also lived in Newfoundland and Labrador a long time. You came here originally to study as an international student, and you've been through a lot yourself, like Sanchita and many of us. So this this new position that Kamala Harris has won, and rightly so, and of course, being Caribbean yourself, what do you think it means for young girls and women here in Newfoundland and Labrador and in the Caribbean?
Well, first of all, I want to say two things about representation. Two stories about representation. One of my former colleagues is a Sikh man who wore a turban. After Justin Trudeau was elected the first time, I believe our Minister of Defense, our Minister of Security, is also a gentleman who's Sikh and wears a turban.
Mm-hmm.
I remember speaking to my colleague, we're just chatting about something or the other, as I'm sure Shantita and Renata, as colleagues, know, in the office. And he said that he felt so proud to see someone like him at that place. And he's like, he was even more proud to wear his turban. And this guy was a brilliant engineer, a very nice guy. And I was thinking to myself, like, you exude confidence. I can't imagine you thinking anything like less than like with your turban or whatever you're rocking, because like he's always seemed like such a self-confident kind of guy. But that really meant something to him. And, this was a man in his 30s or 40s. The second story I'm going to share is when Black Panther came out. Now, I am a Black engineer and a woman, and that suits me just fine. I've never taught myself special or exceptional in any kind of way. But the image of Shuri being a Black engineer on the big screen, I was a woman in my 30s, and that hit me with an emotion I didn't even know was in me. And representation matters.
Absolutely. And this is why in her speech, thank you for that, Carmichael, Kamala said, little girls watching her will continue to dream and they will know that they can do it because she could and she did it. And just from the point of view of time, and I know we all have many things in the agenda today, and before I go on, I want to really thank all of you, Sanchita, Carmichael, and Renata, for taking time off for us to have this discussion. But we could wrap it up with the one last question, give your final thoughts. And Sanchita, we'll start with you. What do you hope to see now? Oh, here we are. We just lost you all for a moment, but we're back. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, and you're still recording because the red button is still on.
Perfect. All right. So let's start with Sanchita. What do you think it means going forward from here on now? Of course, they say when the US has a cough, Canada sneezes, because we feel the effects of everything. And we're going to wrap it up with this question just from the point of view of time. What do you think is going to happen now? And let's put it out to St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. What do you think some of the changes we might see?
Some of the changes we might see, we want to see.
Yes.
We should see. I think we would see. Mostly, one thing we talk about in our diversity and intercultural communication, cultural intelligence training, that we try to promote one concept, which is the work is both ways. learning is both ways. Learning never finishes just because somebody's teaching me. So teaching and learning, it's a both way communication. It's both ways. And what Harris taught us, are we learning it? That's the first question. Also, we need to remember that opportunities are there in our community in St. John's, in this province as well. Opportunities are there for everyone. However, those opportunities may have some barriers, some hurdles, something or the other for for all of us when we talk about not just the newcomers or persons with colors or immigrants in general, but also for our general local communities here in this province. This opportunities has to be shared, should be shared and discussed both ways, because again, in the best process of communication, it's a two-ways road. It's a two-ways road. The dialogue should continue. The learning should continue. More and more, I think what I see through this is, yes, Kamala Harris, of course, we are so proud of her, and she showed us this pathway, and she also brings so much lights on for so many of us. As Carmichael said, it's so empowering when somebody I see that I can relate. Same for me. When I see a name that has a last name that I'm familiar with, okay, or sometime when I see that the food that she is eating, which is very close to home, or rather close to you, Sarojini,
Yeah, both
because,
all of us.
right. If we say cultural and subcultural part, subculturally, she's more from your subculture, which is South India, which is, so you can more relate. However, I think the relation here is needs to be more, how do I say this? I do feel at some point that coming from a privileged family or privileged society, sometimes, yes, things are hard, barriers are there. Maybe something in her journey was a bit easier than some others, but then this should not, the dialogue, the discussion of those barriers should not stop. The discussion should go on. The learning should continue. And I do see we have talents here in this community. We do have opportunities in these communities. We just need to connect those dots, and it will flourish.
Absolutely. Carmichael, I know we've seen a lot of disparities around Canada and even in the US. We've seen in the last few months the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests in the wake of deaths. We've seen people struggling for jobs amidst COVID-19. Do you feel with the appointment or the new position that Kamala Harris has been elected for as VP elect now, and later to become the vice president, as you said earlier, the second most powerful position in the nation, do you feel it will bring some changes to Newfoundland and Labrador?
In terms of representation, I hope that some immigrant child or, immigrant herself sees this representation and feels empowered to perhaps step her foot forward to run for any kind of office or city council or anything in our province. I believe that we, people of color of Newfoundland and Labrador, tend to be underrepresented. I just want one commercial of one little brown baby in his new, have the redhead, have the blonde with the freckles, but just add one brown baby, because I swear to you, if you go around this province, we are here. Brown newfies, brewfies. So, I want to see us represented more in our province and not really be seen as an anomaly. Whereas in the rest of Canada, the fact that you might have a different country of birth is just a part of your Canadian story. It's really not a big deal as it is here. So I'd love to see the Newfoundland culture, which makes it so ironic because there's so many aspects of it that is a very welcoming culture, but those same welcoming qualities can sometimes be barriers. To repeat Sanchita. So So to have those barriers, if you're conscious of it, then you can remove it. So let's acknowledge it first of all and not have it be a thing or, explode or anything like that. It's like, nah, if we don't acknowledge it, how can we remove these barriers? So just more representation on that front.
Michael, you just made me so proud. I had to jump in that time. You made me so, when you said that, acknowledging first thing is that admission, thinking, knowing what I have to acknowledge, and then hence the change.
So for the fact that when you say you're in the US and someone's like, oh, she's Canadian, and you're just thinking to yourself, like, I don't look like a typical Canadian. Actually, you do. You do look like a typical Canadian. So let's bring it back to where the fact that we look like the typical can I get a what do you hey?
Hey, bye. Yes, bye. This is it.
Listen to us, brand new fees. Yes, bye.
And can we all say this together? Sarojini, best kind.
Best guy.
Best kind.
So,
I love it. I love
of course, we'll have Renata have the last word here as we come to an end. And Renata, you've served in 2 executive positions with the University of Memorial Student Union. So you have seen a lot and you've done a lot to fight for the underdogs and the rights of international students from everywhere in this province. Do you feel in a position where Kamala Harris is now the vice president or will soon to be vice president in America, do you feel that we will start seeing changes maybe in the upper echelons of society in Newfoundland and Labrador? Maybe like Carmichael and Sanchita said, more representation. Will this trigger us to do something more here in our little province compared to America?
I think it should. I remember having similar conversations when I was involved in the Students' Union with others that look around us at the type of people that were getting elected on this much smaller scale, more grassroots, student level. And it wasn't that long ago that student governments, student unions, whatever terminology your institution uses, it wasn't that long ago that it was mostly white kids and white boys that were getting elected at that level. And now I'm seeing it across the country and even here that we are electing all kinds of people at a student level. And so when speaking with former colleagues about does this hopefully set the tone for what is to come at a higher level of government? And I think it should. I hope it should. In Newfoundland in particular, we're going to face barriers that we won't in other places in Canada, not just because our population is so homogeneous, but this, as my other 2 lovely friends on this panel alluded to, there's some very beautiful elements of our collectivist culture and the sameness and the bonding, but those same elements can sometimes exclude those of us that might look a bit differently than whom many of our neighbors think of when they think of a Newfoundlander. And so acknowledging our biases will, if we don't acknowledge the problem, it's never going to fix itself. We can't be in denial of something. And so I'm hopeful, but it won't come without some pushing and some shoving, because Newfoundland's a funny place for politics too, and there's some deep-seated family dynasties and connections behind the scenes, much like there are in other places in the world in government. So we'll have to push. It's well overdue, because I think that things aren't going to fundamentally change for us until we start seeing people like us who also advocate for us in these positions of power.
Excellent. Renata, Sanchita, Carmichael, I would like to thank you all so much. It's just been a fabulous discussion. I had a great time with all of you. I hope you did too. And I want to really thank you for your time today. It is so meaningful for us to have this discussion, put it out there, and hopefully in our own way and small or big way, we could make a change here to the beautiful province of Newfoundland and Labrador that we all call home now. Thank you, guys.
I also would love to thank you to Mr. Sarojini Lang. I am so sorry. Can you teach me your last name? How to? Your middle name. How to
Okay.
pronounce it?
My maiden name Sarojini Ramnarayan Lang. And Lang is my
So-
married name.
Wonderful. So, Sarojini Ramnarayan Lang, I want to thank you from the very, very core of my heart, because I think what you did today, although it's just a small group of us, we are discussing, but even the initiative that you took to have this discussion, this dialogue to go on, I think this is a great start. To me, nothing is small, nothing is going to bring changes unless we start. So any beginning is the half win to me,
Thanks.
So thank you for giving us this platform.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, this has been an absolutely fabulous conversation. I think just one thing we could all agree on is that the dal in the White House is gonna be crunk. Like, I hope they invite me. There better be some like roti and stuff like that. You could see Uncle in the corner just like, that's right.
Did you hear what she said? She said when Mindy in that cooking show asked Kamala Harris, saying, do I call you Senator Harris? Do I call you, because in Indian culture, we don't call anybody who's in that position and with that experience and age, we don't call them by their names, She says, call me anything, but don't call me auntie. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Renata, any last words before we say farewell and adieu?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've really appreciated the discussion with you folks, and it's been great.
Okay. Thank you all again. Thank you, Sanchita, Carmichael, and Renata, for your time. And let's go get her. Let's make that change. All right? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I'm waiting Gale, oh yeah. Your bumper is a magnet. I stick on like a magnet. A magnet.
Yeah, it's magnetic. Join Sarojini on Caribbean Connections, Thursdays at 1. Walk through the sands with poetry from our great leaders and academics. Jive with us to soca, reggae, chutney, and calypso. Get your current cricket results, meet special guests, and more. Every Thursday, 11:30 Eastern, 1 p.m. Newfoundland time.
That thing just sticking on, sticking on, sticking on, sticking on me.
Run it! This one the hit, yo. Lady Sarojini. Bless up everyone. This is Chad and Ben from Jamaica here representing for the host, Lady Sarojini with the Caribbean Connection Show. Hey, Panwa, 93.5 FM, CHMR 11.
That's a pardon me. I'm a no criminal, so get on your searching. But let me tell you though, if you never know, I'm an island man with an African culture. No drugs, no in my bag.
Behind a man's success, most do not see the strong woman standing next to him. Everybody want to be single and free, but what will happen when they get real lonely?
مساء الخير وأهلا بكم. إن شاء الله تكونوا بخير اليوم. أنتم تستمعون لسروجيني على برنامج Caribbean Connections CHMR.ca 93.5 93.5 FM. السلام عليكم.
Beast mode, ain't no G code on the island, but I live by the with my brothers.
Yo, how it go? This your boy Vivi the Only, and you listening to Sarojini on Caribbean Connections. Check it out on the radio or on your app if you got headphones. If you in your car, 93.5 FM. You can also listen in on cable, Rogers, channel 942, Bella Lion, channel 787. You can even go online, chmr.ca. Bless up.
Gotta get up, get paid with my dogs. We gon' get it all for one for all, like the musketeers. We've been grinding for too many years.
Hey, welcome back. This is the second part 2 of Caribbean Connections. Here, as we are celebrating Diwali weekend, we featured a lot of great tracks, fantastic sounds in the first hour. But now, during the second hour, we're going to switch things up a bit. We're going to get into more of the party groove. We're going to bring it on full force. And we're going to get you winding up your waist here. Princess Anissa and the Supertones kicking off the second hour here on our Diwali Caribbean Connections, having a party time during this second hour, 2 to 3 p.m. This is Texanita.
Here I go. If you know what went on in your broke up Corolla, Mexunita, leave you and go because I do it better. Texunita from Mauritania and bring she to Cuba. Texunita from Mauritania and bring she to Cuba. If you know what went on in your broke up Corolla, Texunita from Mauritania and bring she to Cuba. Texunita from Mauritania and bring she to Cuba.
Sanchita, kicking off the second hour here on Caribbean Connections, spicing up the show. And don't tell me you weren't dancing and winding up your waist. I just know it. Just messing with you. That was Sanchita from Princess Anise and the Supertones, Guyanese American, straight out of Florida. Let's carry on with the party, guys. Give it up for Trupati and Allison Hines. Roll up the tassa.
Come better, roll up the tassa. Come better, play the sweet tassa.
Tiny Whiny by Babla and Kanchan. And some of you may remember them, a husband and wife team. Back in the 80s, they had a meteoric rise, not only in India, but in Guyana and the Caribbean, singing chutney and soca music. And as some of you may have guessed, we're having a post-Diwali celebrations here on the second hour, not disrespecting the holy Hindu festival of Diwali, but during this time, we just want to spice things up a little, staying on the same theme or track, but making it a little bit more partyish. So yes, I've chosen some hit sokas and chutneys for all of you to get up and get into the groove and get your hips moving. Stay with us, guys. The party will continue. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
When you wish for something wonderful to happen.
What is the power of a wish?
Sometimes it can make you forget about the needles and the pain and get through this thing.
Wishes are what we do.
Forget about being stuck inside. Laugh with my family. Go somewhere really amazing and get through this thing.
The Children's Wish Foundation of Canada. Call 1-888-267-WISH or visit childrenswish.ca today.
Sisters, yours may be part of the 72%. Did you know that 72% of all Canadians with Alzheimer's disease are women? Take a moment, learn the 10 warning signs, talk to the Alzheimer's Society. We can help, and you can help us. Visit alzheimer.ca and donate today.
I'm David Suzuki. How far away is your next meal? The average lunch or dinner travels 2,400 kilometers to get to your table. Eating local means eating fresher and combating global warming. The future is in your hands and on your table.
Think globally. Eat locally. Eat your way to a healthier planet and a healthier you. Find out how at davidsuzuki.org.
Hey there, take a listen at this. All this. All this too. My name is Ugwede Ikechukwu. Join me every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. where we do everything Africa. From the music to the current news to the history. From the Horn of Africa up to the north to the west and down to the south. And again, back here to St. John's. That's every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. right here on the One African Show.
Every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m., join me, Hans Roman, for Back to the Future Pop, a weekly journey into the world of post-punk, goth, industrial, dark wave, and experimental music. From the 80s to the present, don't miss Back to the Future Pop every Friday at 4 p.m. on 93.5 CHMR FM.
Hello, beautiful people. You're locked into Sarojini on Caribbean Connections on 93.5 FM, online chmr.ca, Bell Alliance 787, Rogers Cable 942. Be sure to tune in for your weekly dose of Caribbean vibes. Later!
Chutney girl, them there. This is the Arrowhead man, alongside the Guyana Babu. Chutney girl, you got me whining so. Chutney girl, you got me dipping low. Chutney girl, you know you're bad for the soul. Chutney girl, I'm coming back for more. Chutney girl, chutney girl, chutney girl, chutney girl. Pleasures of the Kama Sutra you keep inside your hips, baby. The treasures of the Taj Mahal can't compete with your lips, lady. Tabla drum, sitar strum, I hear heaven calling. Now I can't stop until I hear medulla hen ballin'. Baby, say. And you wriggle like a chicken when you move your winery. And you wriggle like a chicken when you move your winery. On a minty. That's your wisdom. Come a minty. That's your wisdom. Chutney girl, you got me whining so. Chutney girl, you got me dipping low. Chutney girl, you know your back was so. Chutney girl, I'm coming back from home. Chutney girl, chutney girl, chutney girl, chutney girl. From the time I meet you, girl, can't stop thinking of you, baby. Explosion in my head, I got to tell the truth, lady. Rub your feet, you skin your teeth, this look like love, darling. Can't sleep at night, my head ain't right, I think that I'm falling. Hey, hey. And you wriggle and you jiggle and you move your winery. And you wriggle and you jiggle and you move your winery. Chutney girl, dip it low, dip it low. Chutney girl, chutney girl, chutney girl. Bring it up, girl, bring it up, girl. Chutney girl, chutney, roll your waist like a tassa. Chutney girl, come on. Chutney girl, belt your waist, girl, belt your waist. Chutney girl, give them a taste. And you wriggle and you jiggle it. Wriggle and you jiggle and you 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 move your winery. तुम्हारा नाम क्या है? Tell me अच्छा लड़के. तुम्हारा नाम क्या है? Tell me अच्छा लड़के. What's your name, pretty lady? Tell me. I got to know your name. Chutney girl, chutney girl, chutney girl. No, no, chutney girl, chutney girl. Where my life? Where my life? Chutney girl, tell me where did you go? Chutney girl, we got to become one. Chutney girl.
Kicking off this first segment here during the second hour of Caribbean Connections. You just heard Chutney Gal by two fellow Guyanese living in the New York and surrounding area. That was Courtney Noel and the Guyana Babu himself, Terry Gajraj. Hang tight, guys. We're going to continue this party with this great track from K.I. and the band, Same Gal Twice. Have fun, everybody.
Everybody do the K.I. dance. One time when they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same gal twice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. Cause I love real woman, I lived in my life so fine. All of my friends and them just show me a single sign. Watch me and take my advice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. Everybody do the K.I. dance. Everybody do the K.I. dance. Hey, you, yeah you. Now I know why you feel mad or shame. Cause you might never small I was trained. Let me tell you why. Cause I love real woman, I lived in my life so fine. All of my friends and them just show me a single sign. Watch me and take my advice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. Everybody do the KI dance. Everybody do the KI dance. Hey, you, yeah you only had one girl in your life. You even meant to make she your wife. My mother want me bring one to stay, but I cannot live life that way. Let me tell you why. Cause I love real woman, I lived in my life so fine. All of my friends and them just show me a single sign. Watch me and take my advice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. Everybody do the KI dance. Bosso, 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 bosso. Hear me. Cause I love real woman, I lived in my life so fine. All of my friends and them just show me a single sign. Watch me and take my advice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice. When they asking me how I living so nice, I never with the same girl twice.
Benji, darling, my only sweetheart. Benji, darling, we'll never part. If we were to marry, then kisses never part. Kiss me, Benji, darling, my only sweetheart. Benji, darling, my only sweetheart. Benji, darling, we'll never part. We were to marry, then kisses never part. Kiss me, Benji,
this one will definitely take you down memory lane. And if I recall correctly, we're going back to many, many years ago, maybe back in the 70s or even the 60s. That was Benji Darling by Nisha Benjamin. Definitely an oldie, but a favorite of so many Guyanese and Caribbean folks all over the world. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this chutney section here on Caribbean Connections. Stay with us. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Don't go away. You're listening to Sarojini. You're listening on Caribbean Connections. On Caribbean Connections. On Caribbean Connections. Connection.
Volunteering. It can begin with the simplest of gestures. A gift of time, energy, commitment. Something precious that grows stronger with every hand that touches it and grows across communities and through the very fabric of our nation and begins, once again, with the simplest of gestures. To Canada's 6.5 million volunteers, thanks. A message from Volunteer Canada, the Government of Canada, and this station.
Hi, I'm Jalen Taylor, and I would like to remind you to not drink and drive because many people lose their lives every day, so please be safe and responsible. This public service announcement is brought to you by CHMR.
This is the social media news. I'm your friend's kid brother. My classmate Jeff told me that immigrants are coming to Canada to steal our toys. Jeff also says he has a tattoo, but the tattoo artist made him swear not to show anyone. Jeff is so cool.
Social media isn't journalism, so why does our government give billions to social networks while Canadian newsrooms die out? Visit friends.ca to learn more. Authorized by Friends of Canadian Broadcasting.
If you're a chronic nostalgic who loves the music of Newfoundland and Labrador, tune in to the Newfound Records Radio Hour on CHMR, Saturdays at noon. Join host Wayne Tucker as he shines a light on rare gems retrieved from the vinyl deeps and supplements the music of the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s with a generous sprinkling of history and trivia. Relive all kinds of local music, traditional, folk, country, pop, rock, and everything in between. So whether you're a sentimental old-timer stuck in that vinyl groove, or a newbie eager to hear hard-to-find roots music of Newfoundland and Labrador, tune in to the Newfound Records Radio Hour on Saturdays at noon, where the unexpected is the norm.
Hi, I'm Vicki Morgan.
And I'm Josh Morgan.
And we're Mulberry Creek. Listen to the Mulberry Creek Hour on CHMR 93.5 at 5 o'clock on Tuesday afternoons or anywhere you get your favorite podcast.
We interview musicians from all over the world, and we're really funny.
I think we're funny.
I think we're funny.
And we do acoustic tunes from Mulberry Creek and from the musicians, and it's a laugh.
So listen to the Mulberry Creek Hour anywhere you get your podcasts and here on CHMR.
Hi, this is Vinod from New York City, and you're listening to Sarojini on the Caribbean Connections.
Say you
mother go run me out, girl, with a bell now from she yard. Your father want you to marry Polly, that's for his green card. Your mother go run me out, girl, with a bell now from she yard. Your father want you to marry Polly, that's for his green card. But I'll marry you, girl, I swear by stars above. Come let we get away, baby, you are my only love. I don't care what people say, and I don't care what they do.
I already packed my clothes, so tonight I'll come with you.
I don't care what people say, and I don't care what they do.
I already packed my clothes, so tonight I'll come with you.
Then we go live together like Starboy and Stargirl.
And we gon' sing this song as we row in the canal.
Sawane kamahina, pawane kare sword. Chira de jume aise, jaise banamana chemor.
Chira de jume aise, jaise banamana chemor.
Chira de jume aise, jaise banamana chemor.
Kuchi Gadbardhe again by Babla and Kanchan. And of course, we were just having so much fun with Princess and Nisa and the Supertones. We had to play You Are My Lover. So guys, this brings us to the end of Caribbean Connections for another week. Here, during the second hour, we've chosen some real hot and spicy chutney beats for you to get you into the party mood. And we certainly hope that you enjoyed them all, you had a good time, and you actually got up and moved those feet and wind your waist. So listen, don't lie to me, and know at least you are winding up for one of them songs. So good for you. I'm going to take my hats off. So, hey, join us again next week. Same time, same place. 1 p.m. Newfoundland time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can reach us worldwide on www.chmr.ca. And, of course, locally, 93.5 FM. And, hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You just search Caribbean Connections, look for our promo, same as on the poster, and then you can search whatever episode you'd like to listen to. And we always upload our episodes a few hours or the very latest the next day after the first broadcast airing. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoyed all the tracks we've picked out, the Diwali tunes and the chutney tunes. Stay well and healthy. Take care of yourselves and of each other. And we're going to see you next week. Let's give it up for Rakesh Yankaran to take us out today with Dolahin Chale Sasurai. Have a great weekend and bye for now.
जाने वाले दुल्हन कुछ कुछ जाना लेकिन एक नाता नाता जाके निभाना हमें दुखियों को भूल जाना भूल न जाना जाने वाले दुल्हन चले ससुराल जाए मुतो घरे दुल्हन चले